Thank you for that introduction. And it's a beautiful morning out here in Utah. The elk were bugling this morning. The colors are beautiful. We're a little bit smoky from all the fires, but everything goes according to plan and going forward. And it's great to be on the call today and talk about CBD. But first, I'm going to say our deal of the day ended about 5-6 minutes ago. And I was looking at the countdown clock here, about 20 minutes ago, of it going down, and we see people have hurried and moved in and taken advantage of that 20% discount on one of our latest SKUs, which is the mint-flavored 500 mg. And I'll tell you what, if you took advantage of that, you got a real bargain. And not only did you get a good deal on CBD, you got the world's best CBD. And I've worked on this for years and years, literally. And so it's a pleasure to be on the call today and talk a little bit about what I have been working on for, now it's been over 4 years since I started, almost 5 years ago, doing research into CBD. Because like DW said, there were so many myths that were out there about this amazing ingredient. And even my own father, he was so blown away when we came down to the end of this during an election year here a few years ago that made it possible that all 50 states could grow industrial hemp. And I'm not talking about marijuana, but I am talking about one of the families of cannabis. And as a kid growing up, that was always taboo. If somebody, had a marijuana leaf on their T-shirt, or you would see some of these big rallies about smoking marijuana and things like that. They didn't realize at that point really what they had given up decades earlier with industrial hemp, because science didn't distinguish between those, and honestly there were not methodologies to say a Holstein cow is not a Hereford bull. But they knew they were both cows. And the same thing was with cannabis. They did not know that industrial hemp is significantly different than recreational marijuana. And I'm not even going to say that there are some therapeutic benefits that they're finding now, even with marijuana now with THC, and obviously, the old joke. But the truth was, glaucoma definitely was slowed down with THC. That's not what got me interested in this. Going back actually thousands of years ago, they had, over in Asia and other parts of the world, they had found in tombs and in records that people had used cannabis, I'll say it to that point, for medicinal different situations. Well, the development, I remember years ago when I would talk about in the early 90s when they mapped the human genome, and this was, I think, 93, if I remember. What an amazing discovery that was, that now we knew the genes, how they were orchestrated. We were starting to find disease. We had mapped the entire human genome. When I was a kid, that wasn't really even a dream at that point, that we could look in there and say, well, you have a disposition that later in life you could become diabetic, or you could have an increase in breast cancer, or all of these different ailments. Well, as science has progressed and growing up in this family and in this industry, going back to when I was about 11 years old and first started formulating industrial chemicals, my mind started really looking and working on what is out there decades ahead of everyone else, and what are the newest discoveries. And so here a few years ago, I really enjoy history and seeing some of these ancient things that they had unearthed and talked about, and then the media was warming up to industrial hemp versus marijuana. So I thought, this is something that fascinates me. And so first thing I wanted to know is, how does it affect our body? And does our body have a mechanism to utilize this for a benefit? And not talking about getting high, and not talking about those type of things. But what is the real role of CBD in our body? And what we found out is that our body naturally produces cannabinoids, endocannabinoids. And what I found is that our body needed these. And I also found that our body is deficient in this. And that phytocannabinoids, meaning cannabinoids that come from plants, definitely can mimic those that your body is producing and having the same response. And so at that point, I wanted to know all the who's, what, where's, and how's, and who's doing it right, who's doing it wrong. And just like most things, I found out that 70 to 80% of what people were talking about was hemp seed oil that contained no cannabinoids. But because it was a real gray area in the law and it had that taboo factor associated with it, they were putting it in everything from hair shampoos to, capsules, tablets, tinctures, but it had no benefit. But yet they were touting the latest scientific research into what does CBD do in your body. And then because hemp seed oil has always been legal and has not been an issue because it didn't contain any THC or any CBD at all, they were trying to skirt the issue and say, hey, you'll get the same benefit with this. Well, it was an empty canteen. It was bone dry. It had dust in it. I mean, you weren't going to quench any thirst with what they were doing. Well, that also fueled my interest in how do you do it right. And so I didn't even discuss it with anybody here, at work. It was what I would do in the evenings and get research. And then I started calling different growers in Washington and Oregon and Colorado and Kentucky and areas that were really moving forward with this and finding out all the where, what, when, and hows about this. And then I got a hold of the Department of Agriculture here in Utah to find out if it would ever be a possibility to actually bring an amazing product out that gave everybody the benefits that they wanted. And at that point, I really didn't think it would ever happen. There were about 13 of us, and we put a little committee together, and we meet with the Department of Ag here in Utah, and we discuss, mostly what the regulations would be and what the extraction processes would be and all the what-ifs, but it still needed to come down to a vote to make it legal. Long story short with that, we became the first processor manufacturer legalized in the state of Utah, and even as of today, we are selling the most amazing product out there because it's backed by the science, the research, the testing, the quality, everything from the genus of the species to how it's grown, where it's grown, the soil, and most importantly, well, I won't say most importantly, but the makeup and the profile, because we've discovered there's over 100 different CBD molecules out there, and many of those just get classified in as CBD. But what we're finding out that there's very important terpenes, which are another moiety that's found in this that has a very beneficial benefit in our lives, because CBD controls, it's really the gasoline in the engine as far as our body's ability to reach homeostasis, where we are at equilibrium with the stress and with pain and with inflammation, and our body is constantly trying to produce enough of this. As our anxiety goes up, as our health diminishes, our body needs these critical molecules to help our synapses and our nerves and our brain function to relieve stress, relieve anxiety, get us into a frame of mind where we have better sleep. And so as I started to research and study this, I realized that there were bad tomato plants and there were good tomato plants, and which ones had the best. And this is where I went back and did a lot of research, not even thinking that we would be able to have this amazing product out there. And as I found this, I found a grower. I found the genus and what he was doing and his historical data, and we were able to work out a scenario to where we could exclusively use his material. And he, like me, is looking out there way to the future on what this is, and he had worked on extraction to a very large degree, and what was the best, and what we found. You'll go out there and you look at a label, it doesn't really tell you the years, the miles, all of the millions of hours that are dedicated to a good product. And when somebody tries to pass hemp seed oil off as CBD, it's really a shame because those are people just looking for a quick buck and not a benefit to our health and what we can provide people. And so one thing I found out in the processing, maybe I'll talk about that for a second, is that because industrial hemp will produce small amounts of THC when done right. And so you process it, and what many growers do is they have to do many different types and many different steps and reprocess to get their levels to where they can legally be sold. Now, what happens with that when we're talking about some of these very vital components that are in terpenes, they're in different types of, and they're minute amounts, but they have a very big benefit to our health. Every time this gets processed, you lose those, and some of those virtually disappear. And I'll say majority of the products out there I don't see as being viable. Do they have CBD? Yeah, they will, but they lose many of these very fragile and minute amounts. You want a genus of plant that has all of these, but that in the first extraction process comes out spot on. And you want a grower who has a historical record of hitting that every time. And so this is something that I went through with them, and what type of additives and what types of solvents are used, and to make sure that we wouldn't have any residues of that. Well, we come to the vote here in Utah, and I go in and I talk to my father, Tom Sr., and I said, Dad, I want to talk to you about some research I've been working on for a few years. He said, oh, what's that? And I said, I've really been investigating this CBD, and I think we have a chance that if we can pass this legislation that's been put before us to get it on the ballot as voters, I think that we have a real chance. And so I tried to, over the course of a couple hours, explain to him the endocannabinoid system within our body and the benefits that are realized from having, where most people are running about 70% of what they really need, that if you can get to 100%, that you can, have increased health and less anxiety and better sleep and faster healing and all these different things. And the studies that went on thousands of years ago that were just basically use it and see what happens, but were significant enough that they wanted to record the results and even bury some of this material with people. And so, and then going fast forward to modern science, what science was finding out about this, and he was like, oh boy. I said, what's that, Dad? He said, I actually did a mail-in ballot and I voted against it. I said, well, I hope you're not successful. This will be the first time in my life that I hope you're a failure. And so he said, well, let's see what happens, but I think you're spot on with this. And son of a gun, it was a close vote, but we got it. And at that point, we moved into, becoming the first here in Utah to be legal, registered with a product and a manufacturing facility and a processing facility here at corporate. And we today have the world's best CBD. Nobody is superior to what we are doing. And if I ever find them, I'll tell you what, we're going to do that. But we have, even though it's, I won't say novel at this point, it's been out there, and mostly because of the shysters out there that were trying to pass off inferior products and virtually contain no CBD. We have the very best product out there. And what we see as far as, results are amazing. In fact, I'll tell you a little something here looking at when we had the Thermarol product, and then we took that base and combined that with a very powerful CBD extract that we have. And right now, and really results, like I say, results are everything. And people's repeat sales and people buying the product tells you really the success of it. The CBD warming lotion outsells the Thermarol formulation 4 to 5 to 1. And so that tells you a lot about the different results. Thermarol is an incredible product, but it does not have CBD in it. And when people rub that on a joint, a stiff muscle, holy cow, because we have receptors for in our endocannabinoid system, in our skin, our brain, our nerves, our muscles. It's everywhere because this is what our body utilizes to reach that homeostasis. And so we've added additional SKUs. And DW hit on a real critical point there. You think about, you tear a muscle, you have a joint that's sore, the doctor will say, put a heating pad on it, put an ice pack on it, because you're expanding and you're contracting to reduce inflammation. So we have the heating lotion, and now we have brought the cooling lotion. That gives you a 1-2 bam on soreness and stiff muscles, and so you can actually, because you can't go to the local grocery store with an ice pack wrapped around you and then switch over to a heating pad, and so now we have lotions that you can do that with, and this is why we have brought that out. And, then everybody, the organoleptic side of it, the flavors, the fragrances, and everything, we have 3 different flavors now. We have, and we do have a THC free formulation, which is the same amazing product, but we've been able to take the THC out of that, which is extreme. It's drops in the ocean, but still there's some people who think that little bit they want out, and so we have that formulation also. The 1500 is still my favorite product, just because the concentration, and I know people can probably relate with the, what I've gone through the last 6 weeks with Tom Sr.'s passing. I for the first 2 or 3 weeks, I would guarantee that I became the biggest CBD user in Sisel, and I'm amazed with the results, and it definitely helped me cope with a very difficult time. But now we move forward, and we have new products that I've worked on for years that we'll be bringing out this year. We're going to talk about new markets. We're going to move forward at light speed. With the COVID crisis and everything that's gone on with the companies going out of business. I was so amazed when, this happened this last year with this COVID. I didn't realize we didn't produce any antibiotics in America. And, that other parts of the world controlled that. And, boy, once that hit and you started seeing companies fold, I didn't realize how fragile supply chain really was, especially when you're talking with unique ingredients and unique supply. And the crisis isn't obviously, we're not the only ones impacted by this. I mean, our business, our sales are actually up each month since this has happened, because people need Sisel products now more than ever before. And we see that even with what we've had in delays in resupplying our line, and we've had to hire numerous people to help qualify new vendors, and we've actually had to use some outside labs because we're so swamped. in running tests and analysis on ingredients to see if they're Sisel Safe and see if they have the active components that we can switch out to suppliers who are now out of business. And then with the container and packaging supplies, and in fact, I was looking a couple days ago at a major competitor of ours, a $2 billion a year company, and holy cow, they've got 40-some-odd products that are on shortages. 21 are just completely out of stock, and they're actually having a much more difficult time than us. Our log jam is breaking open, and we're moving, like I say, light speed ahead with this, and things are definitely loosening up. We have amazing things to bring out this year. We have an amazing opportunity. We have the world's best compensation plan, and you have my commitment. We're not changing that. You can build your future based on that plan. You can rest assured that, the products that we have, the integrity, if anything, will get better. I have new chemistry that I'm looking at with a few of our products to make them safer, make them even more functional, have a bigger health benefit, just like how do you take Thermarol and sell 4 or 5 times more of that same base formulation? Well, with the additional CBD in that. And so we have so many things that we're working on. I'll tell you what, this is a company that is moving way ahead of our competitors, and this is a great time to be in Sisel, and I hope people took advantage of the deal of the day to try the mint flavor. This is exactly the same CBD that's in the 1500, but it has a different flavor, and because it is a third less CBD, it has a much more appealing price point that people can try the product, because still it is very novel. 2 years ago, over 90% of people did not even know what CBD was. And like my father and like me a few years ago, automatically cannabis, I have no interest. But we've been able to distinguish the species. We've been able to be the first to do it right, and we have been able to move forward and have a legitimate, legal, highly beneficial product. DW, are you still with us?
I am right. I'm right here with you, buddy. So let's jump into a couple of the products that we have our hands on. Absolutely love, and it's made a big impact on sleep patterns for me. I really can't tell you why, but that 1500, the one that's your favorite, it just is, that is like the bomb diddly bomb. That just is a game changer.
It is. Now, you bring up a good point that I hadn't thought about with that, and that is the fact, why is it in an oil? Well, obviously we have encapsulators, and those things can be much easier to do. And so when people bring you soft gels, and I've had this happen, how come these soft gels don't work as well? Because that's an oil with a gelatin capsule around it. And, why can't you put it in a tablet? Why can't? Well, absolutely, you can do all of those things. But the greatest form is to put it in an oil, because it's heavily metabolized by the liver. And if it goes directly to the gut, well, guess what? Then it goes almost directly to the liver, and it'll filter that out. By putting it in your mouth is highly absorbent, and it can pick that up. I mean, you have CB receptors there just like everywhere else in your body, and that can be absorbed and utilized, and so it doesn't have to go through a first pass through the liver. And because of that, this is why we have it in a dropper or a sprayer, and so you can actually just put that in your mouth and start to receive the benefits before filtering that product out.
Now, when I take the 1500, the CBD oil, I just leave it under my tongue for a couple minutes. I just figured that was maybe a wise thing to do. Right. Not sure that it is. But you like that idea?
Oh, I love it. I think that's exactly how I do it. And hold it in my mouth as long as I can. I get the biggest bang for the buck. and then you still get an advantage, after you swallow that, but you definitely have a higher potency, because what we find is that people who are, I'm a larger person, I'm 6'4", and I'll take more CBD. The average person needs about 25 to 35 mg, but I have no problem taking 50 to 75, depending on where I want. If I want a little mental clarity, I'll maybe take 12, 15 mg. That's usually how I start my morning. If I, get home from work and the cows are out and I've got to saddle up my horse and I'm pretty darn stiff 10:30, 11 o'clock at night after riding through the oak brush and everything, well, I have no problem taking 50 to 75 mg, and then my muscles recuperate faster, my mind's at ease, I sleep like a baby, I wake up refreshed, and so you really have to find out where you are at. But to your point, yes, put it in your mouth and hold it. You get the biggest benefit that way.
So you also did a little bit with, jumped in with the, I think it was with the FBI to find out what was good, bad, and all that as well. Is that accurate information?
With the FBI?
Yeah.
Well, not so much on the chemistry side of this, but yeah, on the legality. Oh yeah,
correct.
I had to submit my fingerprints and do a background check, and yeah, that takes a little bit of time and all that. So yeah, you have to submit it right to the federal government on what you're doing and who's doing it and who's responsible, and yep. So that was all me, and so.
And you did it some of it under the radar with what was going on with your dad doing so much other stuff. Now you have the 500 milligrams is with the mint.
Yep.
And so people, I get this question all the time. Well, one has 15, one has 750, one has 500. Do you want to kind of break that down real quick, or?
Yeah, so it's really on concentration, except for the 750. The 750 has no THC in that at all. And people who, because over time, and I haven't had this, I haven't done a test in a while, but some people will actually show because THC tests are just an indicator if it's present, and they are highly sensitive. And because this is an oil-soluble substance, it can accumulate to a degree in your body. It won't get you high, but you will, on an indicator test, it won't say how much, but it can say, hey, yeah, you have been exposed to THC. And because of that, we have the 750 for those people. Now, as far as getting high, the worst thing for THC is CBD, because they bind to the same receptors. And so people who are looking for recreational marijuana, or if they're taking THC for a health reason like glaucoma, or there's some pain medications out of THC, you don't want CBD, because you won't get the benefit of the THC that you're looking for if you're taking CBD. So what happens? You have a 1500, you have a 750, you have a 500, and that they're all coming from the same genus of plants that we have, but they're just a different dilution. And what that does is gives you a different price point for more ease of entry. People who are accustomed to it, the 1500 is the best value out there for the world's best CBD product. But some people are like, $150, and I want to try it first. Well, you can get the same effect and the same benefits from the 500 mg. It's just an easier price point, but you'll have to take, once again, it's the dose. For me, I like, depending on the time of day and what I'm looking for, if I'm taking 25 mgs, I'm going to have to take more of the 500 mg than I would the 1500, because the 1500 is 3 times more concentrated. And so, and then were we going to have 3 different dilutions, we thought, let's have 3 different flavors, because not everybody likes mint, or not everybody likes orange, so we changed the flavors too.
Well, and that's pretty wise on what you did there. Not just marketing, but just to introduction.
Right.
And I'm just no country as cornflakes, Tom. And so when it comes to, I didn't look at all the little numbers on the tube. I just squeezed the bottle about 12 times until it filled up, and then if I was having a bad day, I did that twice. If I wasn't having a bad day, but I need a little extra, I did that 1.5. I just kind of like, I'm my own chemist over here in Morrison, Colorado. Just saying.
And your metabolism won't be the same as somebody else, and so that is the best way, and that's really how it started thousands of years ago. People thought, how much do I need? And so they would take a little more, a little less, and that's really how that worked. And it's not a foreign substance to your body. Your body's producing CBD, and your body knows how to utilize it. And so what you'll find, it is funny. When we first started playing with this over in the lab, I had a couple of people who, and I had it happen to me a couple of times too. You get tasting different samples, and after 30 or 40, you're like, am I tired? I haven't been this relaxed in I don't know how long. So you quickly learn when you're formulating, you don't take a very big sample and try it. You take just enough to taste the consistency and the flavor, that profile, because we actually had a couple people like, I think I'm going to have my wife come pick me up. They weren't high, but they said, I am so relaxed, I think I'm going to have someone come pick me up tonight. So
it does. I mean, it's we've had even people that had some kiddos that were just a little hyper, and one or two squirts just kind of helped things out a little bit.
Oh, absolutely. If they're having a hard time focus, give them a little of that, and all of a sudden they can focus better. And that's what I've noticed. If all of a sudden I've got 1 million moving parts and 200 emails in my inbox, and I really need to focus on a couple critical points, I'll tell you what, take a half a dropper, and it really focuses me, and a lot of the white noise around me dissipates, and I can really get down to the nuts and bolts of what I really want to address.
So that's one of the things that when it comes to marketing and explaining to people, I think this call, Tom, is going to be a big helper for just people understanding the basics. And if they want to get to a master's event and you're there and they get to see your slides, that is because you go into the history. You go into the history of it.
Right. Oh, yeah. There are people out there. I mean, PhDs and doctors who have studied this, going back many decades. And even though it was restricted, they in their labs had worked on this, and they found the system that would work. And that's what was that was probably the biggest obstacle once we were able to sell a legal product was the taboo factor, but also the bad apples out there who had been passing off hemp seed oil or just oil, saying it had CBD because they were kind of selling it on the black market or the gray market. And so a lot of people did not have a positive response. They're like, yeah, I've tried it. I didn't see a benefit. Right there, that told me this person, has a bad taste in their mouth, that it doesn't work. And everybody, 100% of everybody needs CBD. This isn't like, well, how old are you? Are you 95 or are you 35? Or your body's producing it right now. And virtually everyone is not getting enough in their system. Well, like most things, every one of us, is deficient in some type of a mineral. Or most people are deficient in vitamin D, the sunshine vitamin. We don't get enough of that in our diet. We don't get enough sunlight. We don't get enough supplementation. And, and there's ingredients, L-carnitine and other things that we need in our diets because we don't produce those. And so they're essential. We have to get those. Well, CBD is one of those things that we need in our life to have homeostasis, to be able to deal with the stresses that we encounter every single day. But the big thing for someone out there promoting this is be your own testimony. You are a product of the products. And when I talk to you, DW, or you talk to me and say, hey, you know what, I'm having a hard time sleeping, Hey, I've got stiff muscles. Hey, I need a topical lotion that would really help my joints. When you tell me that what you are doing and the benefit you're getting, that is the most powerful sales tool out there. It's not a video. It's not a clip. It's not a PowerPoint. That right there. I have so many people that say, now tell me about the endocannabinoid system and what type of CBD and what is the precursor for that, and tell me why omega fatty acids are the backbone to how your body produces. That is analysis paralysis, and don't get into it. Hopefully people trust Sisel enough to know we worry about those details. We want to know how, what, where, and why. Don't get so wrapped up in the chemistry. Try the products, get your own testimony of that, and share your experience. And at that point, those people who want to become product users are going to purchase the product, and those who are really tuned into what an amazing business opportunity. You have the world's best CBD. I've tried this product, and now I want to build a business because I don't have to maintain inventories. I don't have to have a secretary, a warehouse, all these things. Sisel does all that. All I do is tell people about my business experience and these amazing products. Those are the two fundamentals that people need to know. Other than that, the rest will just, potentially make you think, I've got to be like Tom Jr. and I've got to study this for the last 5 years before I can open my mouth. Don't do that. Go out there today and tell people about your positive experience.
Well, we've had several clients come on board, and like I said, a new doctor's office, just because we let them sample the cooling and warming gel, because you get impact, boom, right away. Now they want the whole 9 yards, and it was just that simple.
Chiropractor wouldn't want the heating and the cooling lotion. Every chiropractor would want that.
Oh man, they love it. They went,
right.
Where did you get this? I said, I'm glad you asked.
Yeah, a physical therapist. Any of those. And the thing is, it's real easy to say, let me just give you a little dab right here on your arm. You tell me what that does on your wrist. You tell me how that feels. Do one on one and one on the other and say this is the world's best, and you've got the world's best CBD in that also to even help with the inflammation and the homeostasis and everything.
And this one chiropractor was a physical therapist and then got a doctor's degree in chiropractic as well, and does a lot with sports medicine and athletes and the whole 9 yards. Hey, another question that we want to, now this is a product that is available to be sold in Japan as well, correct?
It is. Yep. And our Tokyo office has that. Now, if you have Japanese connections, boy, now's a good time to talk to them, because CBD in Japan is like America 5 years ago. And I can't tell you how difficult it's been to get that product in there, and the CBD has to be extracted only from the stalk of the plant and the stem, and so that's been very difficult because it takes tons of material, because CBD comes from the bud of the plant. And because of their legislation going back decades, they say any cannabis from the bud can't happen. So that's taken me an additional 2 years to get that process down and to get people who are willing to save that. They look at it as a byproduct. They use the stalks and the stems for flour and protein, and that's been around for quite a while, and building materials. But to get somebody who's willing to take that huge amount of biomass and get 1,000th of the CBD out of it, but we've been able to do that. I'm not aware of any other MLM that's even selling CBD over in Japan. But we have a professor of pharmacology who is out of his mind excited when I launched that product there. Boy, he came and spoke, and we went to dinner, and he's like, I can't believe you got this here. I've been, meeting with the government for the last 2 decades, and they said it'll never happen. But where there's opportunity, you're going to find Sisel. And even though it's a 1 in 1,000 chance of getting it, we got it. Does it take a lot of testing to get it through the border? Absolutely. Have we been successful? Absolutely.
Well, you make me want to do the happy dance. That's so exciting. Because, it's how you do things. You and your family, you just do things with excellence, and we just honor that, and we honor you, and we're just proud to be a part of your life and your company, and it's our company too. We're a family.
It is.
Yeah, it's ours as well.
It's the distributors. That's our most important resource we have. And second to that are our employees. And we have the best staff we've ever had. And this is a 1-2 punch. I mean, I tell you CBD and what a success story it's been for me, but I could tell you hundreds of other things I've worked on that have not come to fruition yet. And I don't look at them as failures. I look at some point the government or, science or something will happen. What I'm working on with weight loss is incredible right now, and I hope next year that we're able to do something with that. And I hope to make this a revolutionary product also. But the initial test results are incredible, and I'll leave it at that. I'm not going to give you times, dates, and chemistry, but something I've been working on for a while that I think is going to be very revolutionary. But these are the things that I pursue. And when I get 1 out of 100, I'll tell you what, I'll take that as a success, And but I never close the door on them. There's things from 30 years ago I worked on that I still drip on and I still look at and wait for that. And and those are probably some of the most exciting things with Tom Sr. that I ever had. What are you working on, Tom? What's out there? What are you hearing? And so I was kind of like his bird dog. And the show goes on, and things are moving faster than ever.
Well, we're just proud of you, proud of the team. Customer service has been killing it and doing awesome there. And, you've got the whole team. I mean, I can't mention everybody, but Aaron and Milo and my goodness, the marketing guys behind the scenes, that Jason, those guys that nobody really gets to hear from or talk to. And, of course, now we know, your son, Thomas Jr.
Oh, yeah.
He is swamped with his projects on getting us back orders back on the shelf.
And my youngest son, Caden's graduated college, and now
he's there now, right? He's there, huh?
Oh, he is. Yeah, he's over working in the plant, and so I'll let him work through that. And like Thomas, he started in the maintenance department in high school, and now he'll work his way up, and you'll start seeing more of Caden now also.
Well, we're excited about that as well. And then, but thank you so much for being on this call. This is going to go out to everybody, and we want everyone to blast this thing out there. Any last words before you hop off that you want to encourage the team?
Absolutely. And I'll tell you what, now is the time not to get wrapped up in the sky is falling and, everybody has struggles out there. But know that here at corporate, we are 110% committed to your success. That is the only thing we have. When Tom Sr. passed, he had one jewel, and that was Sisel. And if anything were to survive, is the state, the world, the governments, everything, it was that, because this is a legacy that goes on. I mean, I'm only the steward for the next 20 or 30 years of this, then I will pass it on. There's a foundation laid here that goes back decades, and it is time to engage if you've ever wanted to build a business. If you're on the call and you're a product user, thank you. And we love you every bit as much. But if you want to build a business, I mean, going through this whole COVID crisis and supply chain crisis and everything has been tough on the world as a whole. We're going to come out ahead of this stronger, better, faster, and now is the time to make Sisel a big part of your life. Be a testimony and a product of the products. Share your story. Be optimistic. That conquers everything. Things are not walls in our life. I learned that from Tom Sr. They are opportunities to become successful, find the answers, and do it for the right reasons to benefit those around you. And it's a pleasure for me to be on the call today, and I want only your success. And with that, DW, I'll turn it back to you.
Hey everybody, that's Tom Mower Jr. right out of Springville, Utah, coming at you live from corporate office.